know what you're going to see in Florida, including some terrific wildlife right outside of Tradition Field, where the Mets play their spring baseball games. Of course, always time for a little suntan and some autographs, too, from a hot prospect. We'll see him in there today. Hello, Marlins are here in town. Fish and Mets getting set as we speed along to the first pitch. Spring training on SNY this afternoon, presented by Citi, as the New York Mets play host to the Miami Marlins from Tradition Field. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. Along with my partner, Ron Darling, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. It's the Mets and Marlins this afternoon on a perfect day for baseball. But, of course, for the Mets, unfortunately, there's some somber news to start it off. David Wright withdrew from the World Baseball Classic with an injury. He's got that dreaded intercostal strain. Now, the Mets are calling it moderate. Inactivity for 3 to 5 days, and then we'll see where he is from there, Ronnie. But it's a question mark because, as Terry Collins said yesterday, hey, Daniel Murphy had a similar injury. We haven't seen him since the middle of February.
Think about it. Missing David Wright any more than 1 day is 1 day too much. But what Terry Collins is going to do, and I think what he's done entire spring training, especially since David left for the World Baseball Classic, is that he's had 3 or 4 guys that have gone out there every day. Justin Turner's going to be the guy. Why? Familiarity. He's a guy that will field his position well, and he's a guy that's a great clutch hitter. But you look at the other guys in camp, both Bixler and Lutz have had good offensive camps. Hicks has struggled a little bit, although he showed some power. But the problem really to me is they've been a little shaky on that left side on defense all spring.
Yeah, they need that defense. We'll talk about that as the game goes on. Meanwhile, one of the big storylines for this team as camp opened, the big prospects, right? You're talking about Zach Wheeler and Travis d'Arnaud. Well, Zach Wheeler was reassigned to minor league camp as expected. d'Arnaud's still here, and he's getting the start today, which I find interesting, getting a chance to catch the veteran mark.
Well, I think the great thing about Travis d'Arnaud is, you said, Kevin, coming into this camp, you're hoping that d'Arnaud and Wheeler would be in late in this camp. Well, d'Arnaud's been the only one to stay here, and he showed a lot of offense, a lot of pop, but even more importantly, a really good relation with the pitchers and the ability to call a ball game.
It's a very nice camp ball. Still unlikely to make the opening day team, but he's close. You could tell that. And the guy, as we said, he'll be catching is Sean Markham, making his 4th appearance, but last time clearly his best time out.
Well, it is. So what happens for these veteran pitchers? They'll get better as spring goes along because they'll get better with their control. Markham, a guy who likes to pitch around his fastball, good breaking ball, great changeup.
All right, so the Mets and the Marlins this afternoon from Tradition Field on a picture-perfect day. Markham goes, Henderson Alvarez going for the Marlins. Sun and palm trees, first pitch coming up next. New York Mets baseball on SNY brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By Toyota. Buy a Toyota right now and save big. To learn more, visit Toyota.com. By Xerox, ready for real business. And by Geico. Mets single game tickets for the 2013 season at Citi Field on sale now. Get your tickets for Mets opening day, the Subway Series, and the rest of the All-Star season. Tickets start at $12 at Mets.com or by phone 718-507-TIXX. Ticket operators are standing by. So Sean Markham gets the start. Here's who we'll see after. And Greg Burke, who pitches in every single spring game for the Mets, it seems. How about Jairus Familia a little bit later? He's had a phenomenal camp. The flamethrower, we'll get to see him, as well as Brandon Lyon and Pedro Feliciano. Good day to be outside and watch some baseball. He's getting ready to run the bases. You can tell he's getting warmed up, getting ready, turning the corner at first. Oh, look out! He's okay. Good news. Mets and Marlins next.
We're here.
Oh,
We're going
hey,
to the
Dan.
park.
I really like your new Jetta.
And you want to buy one like mine because it's
You buy Toyota. They've got a decent amount of the regulars playing today, including the top 3 or 4. Ruggiano hasn't locked up center field yet, but it's thought that he could get that job. And Echeverria, the shortstop, the big trade with Toronto, he's going to be their starter. We'll take a look at him in his electric glove at short as Mike Redmond in his first year as Marlins manager.
Well, the one thing that Sean Markham said when you saw the lineup today, though, he talked about the regulars for the Marlins, was thank you very much that Giancarlo Stanton is not there. Markham won 12 games with the Toronto Blue Jays early in his career, then backed it up with 2 13-win seasons. Last year, only 7 because of injury. And Alexis Met's defense behind Sean Markham. Lucas Duda in left. Marlon Byrd getting the start in center field. Mike Baxter leading off and playing right. Justin Turner, talked about him in the open at third base. Quintanilla Omar at shortstop. Brian Bixford at second base getting another look. Ike Davis, of course, at first base. And Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate.
I think it is interesting that d'Arnaud is not only still in camp but starting today. And in this, who knows, this might be his final start before being sent to the minor league side. But I think it kind of shows you the job that he's done catching the staff and obviously offensively. And why not give him a little bit more experience right now? Catching Sean Markham for the first time in a game against Juan Pierre, leading off in strike one.
It's not only sometimes in camp like this, Kevin, it's a reward for coming back in great shape, working hard with the pitchers. Catchers have it the worst of anyone in spring training, and he gets to stay here a few more days.
Nice backhand by Davis and the easy outs. And, you know, I think on top of that, too, you know, he lockers next to John Buck, and every day there's chatter going on there. So from a learning standpoint and just a knowledge standpoint, you much rather have him in that situation than go to the minor league side where he's the guy, so to speak.
Agreed.
So d'Arnaud catching Markham's start today. Here's Placido Polanco, the 37-year-old veteran, 15 major league seasons, .299 career average, but last year with Philadelphia plagued with all kinds of back issues, and this year's missed most of spring training with an oblique. He's just coming back from that oblique injury. But the Marlins went out and with this extremely young team added 2 veterans at the top of the order that you know what they are. They are pros. They're going to go out and get on base and hit a lot of singles for you, and they're not going to strike out. That's what these 2 guys are.
Well, I think when you look at Juan Pierre and you see Brantley on deck, Pierre had a couple close to 180 hits for the White Sox 2 seasons in a row. Great year last year for the Phillies.
And there's Exhibit A as Polanco is going to turn and go for 2. Duda retrieves in left, a 1-out double for Placido Polanco here in the first.
Well, you talk to anyone in baseball, the most difficult thing to do for Polanco is to get inside because he's just so quick. He never strikes out. And you see this pitch up and in, really just that patented, beautiful short stroke and down the left field line for a double.
Tell you one thing, these veterans are hustling. We had a game about 10 days ago, Mets and Marlins here. Middle of the game. A routine pickoff play, but Polanco paying attention back in. And Juan Pierre hits a routine ground ball, and he flew down to first base and almost beat it out.
Well, think about it, Kevin. If you have a young team like the Marlins do, if you're going to go out and sign people, you want to sign those guys who are going to be good representatives, guys that are going to teach younger players. And, of course, Juan Pierre is one of those guys.
The catcher, Rob Brantley, 23 years old, is the batter. He'll be their 3-hitter this year. All kinds of offensive potential for Brantley, who came over in the big Anibal Sanchez trade with the Tigers last season.
Sanchez and Infante also, right? Well, Brantley was their guy that they knew had a chance to catch in the Tigers organization, but they had Alex Avila behind the plate and thought, when you're an organization that's on the cusp of winning a World Series, you can maybe give away those younger players.
You see a lot of changeups with Sean Markham on the mound like there. That's his bread and butter. If he's going well, he's got that changeup working. And he's not a hard thrower. I mean, you're not going to see Markham in the mid-90s at all. He'll get in the high 80s, maybe low 90s. Control his game. 0-2 to Brantley here in the first. Polanco off second. Tough to get one by the college shortstop, and Markham makes the play 2 down.
You know, you can just tell those pitchers who can field their position. One, Markham's going to give up a lot of ground balls, so he ends up in a nice fielding position. But even more importantly, you'll see the pitchers who can field their positions with great footwork. See where he ends up? Well, he's a little sideways, but ends up turning around. But good footwork, gives the fake to second base to get Polanco back, and proceeds to first for the out. Nice job.
Justin Ruggiano, the batter now, as he tries to pick up Polanco from second, 2 down in the first. Well, Markham was a college shortstop at Missouri State, the shortstop and a relief pitcher. Blue Jays drafted him in the 3rd round and saw the pitching potential. But yeah, he's got some skills out there in the field and at the plate too. Ruggiano's been banged up a lot of the spring training as well. And you know, what a story for him at 30 years old, after bouncing around a couple different organizations, traded the Marlins midway through last year, and got time to play and excelled so much so he hit .313, 14 stolen bases. Because he's missed a lot of time, he's not necessarily the center field lock. There's other people in that competition. Here's Sean Markham. That's a good winning percentage right there.
Yeah, almost 20 games over 500 for his career. Good ERA, good strikeout to walk ratio, all good things. No, I didn't talk about it in the open, but one of the more important things now for Markham is that he's moved up now in the pecking order, because if Santana can't make it, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to make his opening day start, certainly, then Markham now, instead of your 5th starter, becomes your 4th starter, and he's going to have to pitch accordingly.
Three and 1 to Ruggiano. Oh, and you look at it from the Mets' point of view, Markham is essentially the guy right now replacing R.A. Dickey. I mean, that's obviously not how it squares out to be. It's an entire staff replacing what Dickey gave you as a team. But, I mean, he's a very good pitcher that was out there on the market that the Mets got for a 1-year deal. And they're hoping that if he's healthy, he'll give what he's always given in his career. And that's a real good consistency and ability to win most games that he starts.
Although I don't know, he'd want to be referred to as the R.A. Dickey's replacement after R.A. Dickey, what he did last year. But yeah, he's just a pro, throws strikes, competes, and of course Terry Collins knows that.
Full count to Ruggiano with Polanco off second. Quintanilla makes the play, inning over. Good first inning for Sean Markham. He strands Polanco after the double. Mets coming up next. For Terry Collins today, and it's presented by Geico. Mike Baxter in the leadoff spot. Turner replacing David Wright at third. Bird cleaning up in center field. And as we said, Darno gets to start at catcher. Baxter taking outside ball one from Henderson Alvarez.
Well, still young, still learning how to pitch in the major leagues. 22 years old, won 9 games and lost 14 for the Blue Jays last year. He is a sinker ball specialist. He had a real good first half, kind of tailed off in the second, which happens to young pitchers, but made 31 starts, and the Marlins are counting on him for 200 innings this year.
Yeah, Marlins have a staff a lot like him as Baxter takes strike 2. You know, guys that have a ton of potential like Nathan Eovaldi, Jacob Turner, but a lot riding on those guys, quite frankly, after Ricky Nolasco at the top. 1-2 to Baxter, leading it off for the Mets. Baxter trying to get going offensively. 3 for 27 this camp with 4 walks. But I think there's a good look here in today's game for Terry Collins, because I don't think he knows who his leadoff man is yet. And in a bat like this is, I think, why Baxter is still a candidate for that.
Well, if he does, he's a better man than I, because we have not seen a lot of production. Kyle Gill's been great. If they get Baxter going, he can do, from the right side, right-handed pitcher, Baxter can lead off. Left-handed pitcher, Kyle Gill can lead off. They'll be in better shape.
Well, Baxter, after falling behind, draws the walk, and that's the type of thing that you're looking for.
The Ford Marlins defense. Juan Pierre in left field, Ruggiano in center, Coughlin, the ex-rookie of the year in right field, Polanco, Echeverria in shortstop, Solano, Kochman, and Brantley behind the plate.
The Johan sighting. Johan Santana down hanging with Ruben Tejada. Santana out working today, throwing long toss, throwing a bunch of pitches from 60 feet. Not on the mound. Getting his work in. Turner. Whoa, Echeverria showed you the glove. He gets none. Almost made a spectacular play, but he couldn't turn it. Well, that's what he's known for.
We've heard about his glove all spring training long. Even though I couldn't say his name, he has been outstanding. Look at this play. Looked like a hit. Flat out hit. Also a bad bounce. Gets to it and makes the play. And honestly, Solano probably should have came up with that and at least got one out. Beautifully athletic play.
That was a hit all the way off the bat, but Echeverria, I know it doesn't sound like it's spelled necessarily. Yeah. You got to get away from that, but he showed you the range and the hands there. But nonetheless, base hit for Justin Turner. First and second here in the first for Ike Davis.
I only got a couple more weeks, Kevin, or I'll be doing games for Las Vegas, so we'll get it going.
Spring training for everyone.
That's right.
Ike Davis having a nice spring. 357, 2 doubles, and a home run. See, Baxter drew the leadoff walk, and then Turner has the single. Alvarez involved in that blockbuster with the Blue Jays that Ronnie alluded to. 12-player trade where the Marlins sent half their roster to Toronto. Reyes, Burley, Buck, Bonifacio, and Josh Johnson for Yunel Escobar. Echeverria is starting today. Jeff Mathis, the catcher, is still hurt. This is 2-1 Ike Davis. Alvarez, and then a couple of minor leaguers, outfielder Jake Marisnik, Justin Nicolino, a pitcher, and Anthony DeSclafani, another pitcher.
Trying to retool in Miami for Mike Redmond.
Could be 2. Echeverria's return in time. 4-6-3. Baxter the third. 2 down.
Well, that's when he's at his best. That's what Alvarez is going to do. Little change up here, gets a ground ball to Solano, nice toss, and Echeverria does a nice job of eluding Justin Turner to complete the double play.
It'll be up to Marlon Byrd to try and pick up Mike Baxter with 2 down here in the bottom of the first. See Bird's spring numbers, very, very good. 3 doubles in there as well. Guy trying to restart his career, and looks right now he's going to do that and be a part of this Mets opening day outfield. Good block by Brantley. Keep Baxter at third.
Well, Brantley still learning as a catcher, doesn't really get down, and you really have to call that kind of lucky, but still kept it in front of him. The hardest thing for a catcher, you have a pitcher out there, first pitch fastball, he throws in the dirt. Not supposed to do that at this level, so it surprises catchers.
Polanco makes the easy play. Mets strand a runner in the first. Played one at Tradition Field. Scoreless, Mets and Marlins. This is what it's all about, right? Sunshine, watch a little baseball, bring your blanket. I don't know if that's meant to be eaten. I think it's a whistle.
Yes.
That looks fun.
Wrong sport.
That's okay. She's making some noise. That's all that counts. Perfect to bring the family out with the kids. That's very popular. Rolling down the berm into the fence. It's big out there. Second inning, no score, Mets and Marlins. Sean Markham had a good first, got a couple ground balls after allowing a double to Placido Polanco. Chris Coughlin is the batter, the former Rookie of the Year.
Oh, what a strange kind of fall from grace for this young player, right? What did he hurt his knee? Like trying to put some cream on someone, or
celebration,
post-game celebration?
And that was what, a couple weeks after the Kendra Morales thing a couple years ago, wasn't it? It was like it was in a close proximity. The players getting hurt over, walk-off celebration. Coughlin, it's just one far, but it's going to curve foul.
Well, he's not the first or the last. I mean, one of the most difficult things is when you have immediate success in this game, how can you stay grounded? I'm not saying Chris didn't. There were injuries and other things that have stalled his career, but it's you got to stay humble because there's going to be some bad moments too.
Bixler makes the play and retires Coughlin, one down.
Well, I'm sure Brian was happy to make that play. It's been a little bit of a struggle here in spring training defensively, and has moved over to second and fine play.
Donovan Solano now has been red hot this spring, and he really had a very good rookie season for the Marlins when they made that Anibal Sanchez trade and Omar Infante. Solano took over second base, and he was pretty terrific. I mean, 295 overall. And how about the final 43 games? He had 327 in that span.
Well, the Mets saw a lot of that hitting, by the way. I think that, what's interesting is you got to give the scouts a lot of credit because, we think about them going out and acquiring players, looking at players that they want to trade for. But one of the things they do also is the front office will call and say, hey, listen, is Donovan Solano ready to be a major league player right now? Someone's got to answer yes, and that's how trades are made.
Now, the big knock on Solano, everyone always talks about his size because he's only 5'9". What does that matter? Big knock because he's not a power hitter. He might not even be a big doubles hitter, but you know what? Bet 300 and you play good defense, you take that all day in the middle infield.
Plus, they have a ballpark that only a few people are going to hit the ball out of that park anyway.
2-1 to the Marlins second baseman.
This game is littered with great players that were small of stature, especially at that position. Joe Morgan comes to name.
I think Dustin Pedroia is pretty good.
There we go. Petey.
Solano gives it a ride, but Baxter makes the catch, and there's 2 down. That'll bring up Casey Kochman, the veteran who's been around the block the last few years, former first-round pick for the Angels, and then was in a few different places with the Braves and the Rays and Cleveland last year, where he struggled offensively, 229 average. Right now, he's the Marlins starting first baseman. They've had a competition, and Joe Mahoney, who had good power this spring, has got an oblique injury. He's out, so he's basically out of the competition. Their starting first baseman is Logan Morrison, who, after having knee surgery in September, is not really close. I mean, he's running right now with I don't know the proper name, but it's like a gravity assist where you don't run with all your weight on the treadmill.
Yeah.
That tells you he's a little while away.
They're running, what, in a harness or something, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times they do that running in the pool also.
But, Morrison's the everyday first baseman for this team when he gets healthy. Marlins are hoping, maybe get him back sometime in April. They haven't said it officially, but behind the scenes, that's what they're hoping.
Well, Casey Kochman saying this is an opportunity. I'll get hot, maybe keep the position.
Markham looking for a 1-2-3 innings. Got 1 and 2 to Kochman. Echeverria, the new starting shortstop, on deck. That one's going to fall in front of Lucas Duda. And a 2-out single for Casey Kochman.
I know it's interesting when you watch Kochman. He's a guy that can hit to all fields, kind of a gap hitter. Good pitch by Markham, but he has the ability off the end of the bat, though. One of the reasons that ball dropped in.
Here's Adeiny Echeverria. Doesn't really look like it when you see the name on paper, but this is a talented young man who defected from Cuba back in '09 from the national team. How talented was he? Well, when he did so, the Blue Jays scooped him up and gave him $10 million. Wow. So that'll give you an idea what they saw.
He's the only guy who does upright rows to get his shoulders stronger so he can fit his name on the back of the uniform. Look at that, all the way.
He and Jared Saltalamacchia have something to talk about. Turner on the backhand puts away Echeverria, and the inning is over. Marlins strand runner, 1.5 through, scoreless. Inaugural Metropolitan Lacrosse Classic presented by Konica Minolta and Newsday. The St. Patrick's Day lacrosse action begins at noon. Navy plays Holy Cross. Michigan takes on Colgate. Visit Mets.com/lacrosse or call 718-507-TIXX for tickets. As Lucas Duda leads off the home second against Henderson Alvarez. Duda hit a home run yesterday in the Mets' victory over the Braves in Walt Disney World. And it has now 2 on the spring. He's starting to come along after a really rough beginning. Got the spring average to 205. Getting more comfortable and a little bit more rhythm and more comfortable with the slight alterations that Dave Hudgins made to his stance.
You know what's interesting, Kevin, is that from the first game to this game, he shortened up that stride. Not stride, but his stance. So it's more back to where he was last year. Watch. Before he was even more widened out than that. So he's bringing that foot back, and it's very similar to what his stance was last year. So, you know, the battle back and forth between, you know, what the hitting coach thinks will be the best for you and what you as a hitter thinks that'll be the best for you. And I mean, that's always the battle all the time.
Nice scoop by Kochman at first. Always has a good glove over there, and there's one down. You know what I equate it to? It's kind of like if you play golf and you're in a bad rut, and all of a sudden you go to a different, maybe pro, to take lessons, and he gives you this new swing, and you go and it starts working. You're driving the ball great. Where are you going to stick with it? Well, guess what? If you play a couple rounds and you're yanking it into the woods, you're going back to your own way.
Yeah, what do you
right?
covet? You covet what you know. So I think that's what it is for Lucas. I like that swing. It was a quick inside. End result wasn't good, but a lot quicker than he was early in spring.
Travis d'Arnaud gets in at bat today, and the start behind the plate. Takes strike 1 on the heater. He's had a good camp. He really has. Hitting the ball well and getting good experience catching these Mets pitchers, and he's been very quiet. You know, just kind of kept to himself and picked John Buck's brain quite a bit, and talked to him today before the game. I said, "Is it slowed down for you a little bit?" He said, "Yeah, it's it feels good. It's been a great camp. I'm really enjoying, you know, chatting with the catchers every day, and just getting experience." Kochman battling the tough sun, and there's 2 down.
Boy, that's nice to hear, right? I got it. One of the things you never hear in a big league game because of the number of people in the ballpark. It's interesting to watch Brantley, the catcher. He sprinted over there, called off by Kochman, and sprinted back to get his helmet. Mike Redmond has these guys playing hard.
Brian Bixler takes inside ball 1. Bixler, the veteran, former Pirates second-round draft pick out of Eastern Michigan, Terry Collins' school. He's got 2 spring home runs. This one not going to be enough, though, as Pierre on the shallow pop, and a 1-2-3 inning for Henderson Alvarez. Play 2 from Port St. Lucie. Mets and Marlins scoreless.
The inaugural Metropolitan
He's in Port St. Lucie here at Tradition Field. Cool shot from Mike on the high home camera, and the folks on the berm as we start the third. Henderson Alvarez, the pitcher, batting today. Haven't seen that much in spring training yet. A lot of DHs early to get more guys reps, but now the pitchers starting to get their hacks.
In fact, Matt Harvey and a couple of guys, a couple of pitchers got some at bats in the minor league game yesterday. So trying to get them in there. Although I don't know if I'd let my pitchers bat against the minor league.
Little wild. You don't want that hit. Turner throws out Alvarez one down, and good sign, Ronnie. Sean Markham getting ground balls with ease.
Well, that's the key for Sean. He's got to stay on the knees or lower. He's a guy that has great movement if he's down in the strike zone, and he's got to stay ahead. I mean, those things are, every pitcher's got to do that. But when you don't have the 90 plus, you got to do that more often.
Back to the top of the order with Juan Pierre, who grounded out to Ike Davis at first his last time. Takes strike one as we look at Bob Guerin in the middle, the bench coach, Terry Collins on the left, Dan Worthen, pitching coach, on the right.
Well, you'll see that once or twice a game from Juan Pierre. He's probably has the mantle in the game. He's got to be the best bunter in baseball.
Markham has him 0-2. Pierre muscles one up. Baxter has it, though. Don't see that usually from Juan Pierre, but Baxter puts it away for the second out. Let's check around the majors, presented by Citi. Puerto Rico eliminates Team USA behind Nelson Figueroa's terrific outing. Cole Hamels, the opening day starter for the Phillies, which we'll discuss. And Brendan Bosch, guy the Mets had some slight interest in, cut loose by the Tigers, signs with the Yankees.
Well, I think there are a lot of people out there that wanted to sign Bosch, and the Yankees, of course, need some help in the outfield. He's going to. That left-handed swing was made for that ballpark.
He'll pop up and hit 10 home runs in that park with the power that Bosch has. Strikes out a lot, but he's got supreme power. As Placido Polanco doubled his first at bat, and his first at bat since the beginning of the month, and he's 2 for 2. So guess what? Polanco had the oblique injury the entire month. Looks like he's just fine.
I think Polanco is one of those guys. Like, remember Moises a little when he was with the Mets? You could probably call Moises right now. He could come, take a few at bats, and go 4 for 4 in the game. I mean, that's how Polanco is. He just has a, I don't know. Paul Molitor was the last guy I saw. I call him slump-proof swing. Just a shortcut to the baseball.
How can I say this without offending anyone else? But Moises Alou, in the 7 years that I've been here, may be the best pure hitter that I've seen.
That's right.
And just in terms of, like you said, I mean, it didn't matter what it was, coming off an injury, doing whatever. He'd just get in there, and every ball was spanked off his bat.
World Series champion Moises, of course, with the Marlins in 2003, and one of the class acts in baseball.
I visited Moises at his house in Santo Domingo back in 2007. What a class guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
really
he took us around and gave us a tour of his house, and we got there and brought out the lemonade for us. I mean, it was terrific. He's got a big horse farm down there as Brantley watches outside.
And he'll probably always be known by people on the periphery of the game as the left fielder in the Bartman game.
Yep.
Right?
Well, that highlight will live in infamy.
Although Moises, I think, originally said he could catch it. And then I think because he's such a class act, he was trying to deflect some of the criticism that Bartman had, said maybe he couldn't. But
Bixler bobbles, and then bobbles again, but recover to get the lead out. And that's all he needed. Brantley retired. Sean Markham on cruise control through 2.5. We're scoreless. Field in Port St. Lucie. Mets and Marlins are scoreless. Along with Ron Darling, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Glad to have you along. Fantastic day here on the east coast of Florida. Sean Markham cruising along. And it'll be 8-9-1 for the Mets. Omar Quintanilla, the shortstop, will lead things off. Quintanilla 261 this spring. Former A's first-round pick back in 03 out of Texas after leading the Longhorns to the College World Series.
It's been fun for Omar to go over there to Baltimore late in the season, where it didn't matter who you were. If you were traded to Baltimore, you were going to have a good couple of months down the stretch, and he did. He helped them.
A couple big hits for the Orioles.
Was it Lou Ford, who hadn't played in 2 or 3 years, went over there and hit some big hits, including home runs?
They had a few of those guys.
Yeah, right?
Nate McLouth his career was trending downward, and all of a sudden last year, boom, he got back in, and it was huge for the Orioles down the stretch. Ruggiano battling the sun, makes the catch. That sun must be bad today because everyone has really struggled with it a little bit.
Well, there's no clouds in the sky. That's one thing. But he classically does it. Turns his body, gets the ball off his left shoulder, shields it with the glove, and with the glasses on, makes the catch.
Yeah. Sean Markham's first at bat of the spring. That's his career numbers on the bottom of the screen. Getting a chance to hit. Former college shortstop takes upstairs ball one. You know, yesterday talked about it. The Mets beat the Braves in Disney 5-2. A couple notes from that game, other than the Duda home run. Jeremy Hefner's had a great spring. I mean, a great spring. 5 innings yesterday, 5 hits. He allowed 2 solo home runs, but that was it. He struck out 7, including the final 6 that he faced. He's got a 2.93 ERA. Here's Markham deep to left and foul.
Well, Hefner yesterday trying to make his bid for Tom Seaver, right? Who struck out the last 10 Padres he faced in years gone by. But Hefner's been a nice surprise because, you know, the pressure's been put on him to take it up a notch, and he did it.
Yeah.
And, he's had a fine spring.
He looks very comfortable getting tons of ground balls. 2-1. And again, his ERA at 2.93. The other story yesterday is Aaron Laffey, who has not been getting the mentions as much as far as the lefty bullpen competition. 2 1/3 scoreless. He's being stretched out. Why? As Coughlin puts away Markham, 2 down. Well, you know, with Santana out for however long it takes for him to get his arm ready, Hefner is going to be in the rotation, and now they're looking for a guy to maybe be Hefner.
Well, yeah, Laffey is one of those guys who can be kind of a crossover, a guy that can give you 2+ innings. So that's and he's been great all spring training, and a guy they were looking for to really come out of the pack and have a good spring, and he has.
And, you know, either Laffey, you know, making a bid as a long reliever for this team, or just to go to AAA and be stretched out as a starter in case. That's what the plan is with him right now. So you may see a couple of innings per appearance by Laffey. Mike Baxter takes ball 1. Baxter walked and was stranded on third in the first inning.
Well, this is where you'd like to see Mike Baxter walk in his first at bat. He's worked it to 2-0 count. You got to believe you're going to get a pitch to drive. You know, you want to, as that leadoff hitter, get on second base here with 2 outs. Have Turner have a chance to drive you in.
But instead pops this one up to Pierre, and the inning is over. Mets go down in order in the third. We'll be joined by hitting coach Dave Hudgins when we come back. Scoreless game. 4th at Tradition Field. Mets and Marlins are scoreless. Both Sean Markham and Henderson Alvarez on their game throwing strikes. And for the Marlins, it'll be 4, 5, and 6 in the order. Justin Ruggiano, the center fielder today. Grounded out to Quintanilla at short, and takes upstairs ball 1. Joining us from the Mets dugout right now is their hitting coach, Dave Hudgins. And Dave, it's Kevin and Ronnie upstairs. Good to hear from you today.
All right, good to be with you guys.
Well, Dave, you here we are. It's been a long spring training. Good play. Justin Turner slips, and Davis can't make the scoop. It goes by him. And Turner looks like he's hurt a little bit on this play. Oh, man. I'm not sure. We'll check on the replay. Turner made a fantastic stop. Let's see what happened.
Well, the bullet off the bat backs him up, but you wonder if he.
His ankle. I think he clicked his ankle there.
Well, I will say, and I know Dave Hudgins will agree with me, I don't know if this is what happened. Sometimes on those plays, you spike yourself in the ankle.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
Right.
He might have got up and spiked himself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you come up and go to throw, sometimes one of your legs will come across the bottom of the other one and spike yourself in the ankle.
I think you're right, because it looked like his foot kind of came and then it hit it, and that's when his left ankle kind of clicked and turned.
Although it looks a little more severe than that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, football, that's it.
Yeah, right.
Well, Dave, I'm sorry to bring you on with that.
Yeah.
That's not the introduction we were looking for, especially with David Wright down now for a while. So we'll keep an eye on Justin Turner. But, Dave, let me ask you, it's been a long camp. As we look at the replay one more time, what types of things, as far as you teaching and coaching, objectives for you when you came to camp, which was, in January, all the way to now?
Well, I mean, we start out, with Lucas, with Duda, and, he was coming back from that injury, so we had to take it pretty easy with him. And, but, we need to work on some things. So, with him, we looked at a lot of video and started real slow with his swing progression and just tried to get him going, because he, not being able to hit all winter, not be able to work out, he was kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. So we tried to catch him up, but we couldn't do too much with him. So
sure.
And that's the same with a lot of the guys. You knew it was a long spring, so we didn't want to come in and take too many swings early to where you're wearing these guys out too much. So we kind of build the swing progression up and start slowly and kind of build up as we go.
Other than Jay giving you the wrong headset, everything's run pretty smoothly this spring. I was watching on the backfield today, and of course most teams go through situations, hit and run, get a guy over, get a guy in. But you did something I haven't seen in a long time, and without giving any company secrets away. I've watched Marlon Byrd a couple times this spring swing 3-0, and he worked on a little drill, a 3-0 swing to win a ball game.
Yeah, you want to stay aggressive 3-0. A lot of times that's the best pitch you get. The key is, though, you don't want to do too much, try to do too much with it. And that's what a lot of guys will do. And that's why you want to work on it a little bit and talk a little bit about it. Because if you do get a 3-0 count, and that's the best pitch you get, what you find a lot of times the guys try to do too much with it because they know they've got a free swing. So it's 3-1 if they foul it off, but you don't want to try to do too much with it. Otherwise, you roll it over or pop it up, or, you just want to put your good swing on it, and that's what they try to work on.
Chris Coughlin will be the batter, and Brandon Hicks has replaced Justin Turner at third base as Turner lipped off. We'll keep you updated on him. Meanwhile, we talked to Dave Hudgins from the Mets dugout, the Mets hitting coach. And, Dave, when you go back to last year, we saw the talent of Jordany Valdespin. And you're seeing it again this spring. He certainly has so many different tools. I'm sure it can be maddening at times. We've seen that, too. But the one thing it looked like last year is that he really bought in and tried to, not necessarily swing at everything and swing at strikes and his pitches. Tell me about your work with him and where he has progressed in his bid to kind of, be more of an all-around player here.
Well, that's the one thing we try to do with him.
That's a fair ball for Chris Coughlin. And that's going to score a run. Ruggiano comes in and scores. Coughlin, as the ball's bouncing around down there, is going to try and go for 3. The relay not in time. RBI triple for Chris Coughlin, and the Marlins take a 1-0 lead. Dave, you can continue.
Yeah, we don't want to take. The thing about a guy like Jordany is you don't want to take away his aggressiveness, because that's the important tool that he has, and that's kind of in his nature. So we just want to try to make him a little bit more disciplined to take pitches that he should take. That, the pitchers will generally, once they see you're overly aggressive, they're going to throw you less strikes to see if they can get you to swing at balls out of the strike zone. So we just want him to, stay disciplined and stay aggressive on balls in the zone. And he's done a good job with it. He did a really good job in the winter ball with it. He had quite a few walks because, they know him down there pretty well, so they're going to pitch him the same way. And he took his walk, which is one thing a walk is. It's a sign that that you're being more disciplined. That's what a walk is. If the pitcher's not going to throw a strike, you want to take it. If he throws a strike, we want to be aggressive. If you throw your pitch to hit, we want to be aggressive on that pitch. So, that's basically what we try to get across to Jordani.
Dave, especially in the beginning of the year last year, one of the great things about working the pitch count is you work the starter out of the game, but you also can get the 2 strikes a lot, which puts you in a vulnerable position to strike out. Right. Those have gone up a little bit. How are you dealing with that this spring?
Well, that's the one thing about if you're going to get deep in the count, pitchers are good at the major league level, and sometimes they can put you away with 2. And that's why you have to develop a good 2-strike approach where you can battle with 2 strikes, but league average is very low with 2 strikes. And so that's why you don't want to miss the one pitch you do get to hit. The thing is, though, if you're overly aggressive and you swing at pitchers' pitches, then you're making easy outs early in the count, and that's what we don't want. We want the guys to be aggressive with their pitch and their count and on their pitch and their strength, and then try to take everything else. And then when you get to 2 strikes, you just battle as much as you can and try to foul pitches off, and hopefully you get a mistake you can do something with.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for the time. Kind of a weird inning. We apologize for the timing didn't work out, but thanks for the insight, and best of luck. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye-bye.
That was a good question, Ronnie, about the strikeouts, because when you talk about strikeouts, and obviously Dave said, hey, when you get to that point, yeah, a lot of these pitchers can put you away now. It's a little different in the minor leagues, but as Kochman's going to draw a walk now. So the Marlins with 2 runs in on the inning. Unfortunately started with this awkward play to Justin Turner.
Just concentrated on his right foot here, Kevin. It's almost a basketball injury. Watch. Gets on his other ankle, the left, and rolls it right over.
Yeah.
See that?
But he might have rolled both of them.
Yeah, that's like almost a basketball injury where you just turn that ankle because there's no place for it to land. Pretty gruesome, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's we hope Turner's okay, boy. And
on the day we talk about him in the open of having a chance to be the person if David Wright's not able to open the season, not a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. Wright, we told you, 3 to 5 days inactive with an intercostal strain. Echeverria to center. Bird retreating. Kochman back to first, 2 down. But, Wright 3 to 5 days inactive, and then we'll see from there. He did get a cortisone injection in New York yesterday. But you don't know. I mean, he could be out for, a week. He could be out for more than that. You don't know. And now with Turner, you certainly know he's going to be out at least a few days with that. So that's a problem.
I always judge timing of injuries, Kevin. David Wright is so important to this team. You have to be conservative early here in spring training going into the early part of the year because you don't want it to happen again, because then you get into missing a month or more.
Henderson Alvarez, his second at bat, the pitcher, grounded out to third his last time up.
The hardest battle for any hitting coach in the major leagues right now, and Dave Hudgins alluded to it, 2-strike approach. That is what your team has to buy in on. You can work the count as much as you want, but when you get to 2 strikes, you have to shorten up at some point.
Hicks' first opportunity at third, and he makes the easy relay, and the inning is over. Marlins put 2 on the board, though, lead the Mets 2-0. In a minor league game, it's on the backfields going on right now behind Tradition Field here in Port St. Lucie, where the Marlins lead the Mets 2-0. You got 2 runs on only 1 hit last inning because Justin Turner, after making a great play at third base, stumbled and looked to us like he turned his ankle. Throw went wide because of that, and the Marlins turned that into 2 runs against Sean Markham, who's pitched pretty well today. So meanwhile, it was Turner's spot leading off, so Brandon Hicks, who came in to replace him, is the batter against Henderson Alvarez, who's pitching very, very well. He's only allowed a Justin Turner single in this game. And you know, Roddy, I'm not trying to be Mr. Doom and Gloom here, but let's look at where this Mets team is right now. Okay, you've got opening day rapidly approaching. I mean, opening day is just a hair over 2 weeks away, and right now, you know, David Wright is out 3 to 5 days inactive, and then we'll see from there. I mean, hopefully it's less. He did play great in the WBC with it, but that's an injury that could keep you out for longer. Terry Collins admitted as much. Daniel Murphy played in a minor league game yesterday, only the field and ran. He did not hit, and he's not playing in a minor league game today. You make your own deductions from that. Johan Santana is the ace of this team. He's not even throwing off a mound right now. Frank Francisco, the closer, just threw off a mound for the first time today. That's for a team that has had a lot of question marks and guys to step up. Now all of a sudden you've got 5, 6 more vital players who aren't able to perform.
I thought you said you weren't going to be Mr. Doom and Gloom.
I'm trying not to. I'm just saying it's with 2 weeks to go. They have to get healthy, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and Kirk Neuenhuis, we didn't even mention him with the bone bruise, so not able to play. I think that fortunately you have 2 more weeks left. With that being said, these are the times that you start to get some answers for different positions, and you've gotten some early in camp here. I think you have to safely say that Marlon Byrd has proven that he's back to a guy that can play for you. I think the one thing we tend to overlook in spring training is that the team that leaves camp usually can be replaced pretty quickly. I've been with teams that you leave camp and you say, this guy's got to make the team, this guy's not going to make the team, he's going to go to AAA, and the next thing you know, you don't know who's in the big leagues. The Mets in 2006 had sent Darren Oliver home. Pedro Feliciano made the team.
True. So
Darren went to California. They decided to flip-flop. They sent Pedro to AAA, called Darren, told him to get on the plane. He came back to the Mets. He is still pitching. So you just don't know what events will transpire really through the first 2 weeks of the season, even though you bring a team out of spring that is going to be introduced at Citi Field on April 1st. Sometimes 2 weeks later, a lot of things change.
And you're right. Opening day, there's a lot of stock in opening day because it's ceremonial. It feels like a holiday. But the good news is about those situations is this. There still is 2 weeks left. So Neuenhuis and Murphy and guys like that still have time to get back and get going, and presumably they will. Even if Santana and David Wright do happen to start the season on the DL as a 2-2 to Davis, and he works 3-2, you can backdate the DL to your last appearance in spring. So, it's possible, even if they're on the DL, they can only miss 5 games, something like that. So those are the positive right now. It's just, on a day where you're going to be without Wright for a little while, a little alarming. The Turner goes down 2. And Davis, with a good at bat, he's got the Mets' second hit of the day.
The big thing for Ike in spring training, you've been watching him every day, and we talked about it before after Hudgins' interview, his 2-strike approach has been much better. He's not a guy that's trying to hit a home run on 2 strikes. He's trying to go up the middle, trying to put the ball in play, and good things can happen.
I think Ike will hit plenty of home runs not in that count, and some just by accident. And that's a great point. Just look at that swing. So easy for that particular swing. We're getting a little meeting at the mound here.
Chuck Hernandez, the pitching coach for the Marlins, coming out to speak to his young right-hander, Henderson Alvarez, with the trainer. Never a good sign.
This hasn't been a great inning for either team. Alvarez has been pitching great, but clearly they saw something.
Well, he's reaching back at his leg, and I don't know if Polanco is translating for him. Oh, the ball caught him a little bit up the middle. The ground ball looks like it caught the back of his heel as it went up the middle. So no harm, no foul. You can't leave a game on that.
I didn't even notice that on the ball. Let's see.
Let's watch. He puts his left leg up, I don't know if it hit it or not, or maybe
the hamstring.
Yeah, maybe just lifting the leg might have hurt himself a little bit.
Well, regardless, they're checking on Henderson Alvarez. Guess you're going to make him throw a pitch or two.
Well, they're counting on him for 200 innings, so he can't leave the game now. The real turnaround in their coaching staff here is Ozzie, of course. Ozzie Guillen is gone. A 3-year contract to Mike Redmond, who we mentioned. Chuck Hernandez, who we mentioned, just came out. And I think the biggest change, of course, has to be when you have a superstar come back to be a coach again.
Yeah, Tino Martinez is their new hitting coach. And boy, what a fascinating story that is for Tino, who was, well, it was a rock star yesterday because the Marlins played the Yankees in Tampa, and you can imagine what that was like for him, as Marlon Byrd will be the batter. Alvarez is okay. Davis off at first with 1 down. 2-0 Marlins here in the 4th. Tino Martinez got the phone call and decided to take the Marlins up on it. 16 years, 4 World Series titles with the Yankees. He was a great Yankee. Just terrific. Obviously former Mariner as well. And I think it's an intriguing choice for a very young team because, you know, obviously you're counting so much with these guys on this coaching staff to mold this team and get them turn into players in a contender. Byrd drives one left center field, and Pierre can't get it over his head. One hops over the wall, and the Mets get a bad break there because Ike Davis would have scored easily. Instead, he stops at third. The Mets have back-to-back hits off of Henderson Alvarez here in the 4th.
Marlon Byrd has always been a good breaking ball hitter, and a little slider here from Henderson Alvarez and laced into left center field over the head of Juan Pierre. Byrd just continues to stay hot. Head on the baseball, breaking ball stays middle plate in, and a nice stroke, one arm off the bat.
Well, we heard Dave Hudgins talking about Lucas Duda, and now a big spot for Duda with 2 on and 1 down. Just to finish the thought on Tino Martinez, if nothing else, these players come here, they know who Tino Martinez is, right? I mean, he's got that recognition right away.
Listen, they were watching TV when he was when they were in their teens, watching him win, get big hit after big hit, win World Series after World Series. Over 1,200 RBI, 339 home runs, over 1,000 runs scored, and just I think his best year with the Yanks probably was '97. I think he went 44 and 141. 44 home runs and 141 RBI.
Lucas Duda, 2 home runs this spring. He hit 1 yesterday against the Braves at Disney, that is. Single, though, would tie the game. The word on Justin Turner is he has a right ankle sprain. And he's going to the hospital right now for precautionary x-rays. That'll get a run in as Duda grounds out to second. Ike Davis scores. Mets are on the board. It's 2-1.
Well, no sooner do we talk about it with Dave Hudgins. 3-0 count to Lucas Duda. Puts it in play. You know, Lucas will tell you he got the run in on that ground ball. Would certainly like to do a little more than that.
But it gets the Mets on the board. Davis scores. Marlon Byrd goes to third, and apparently the Marlins don't love what they're seeing with Henderson Alvarez right now. At least concerned enough after that mound visit. So Mike Redmond coming to take the ball. Alvarez is done here in the 4th. Pitching change for the Marlins. They lead it 2-1. Kevin Slowey, the new pitcher for the Marlins, as Henderson Alvarez's day is done. 2 down here in the 4th. Mets get a run off of Alvarez. Bird on 3rd, and d'Arnaud the batter. And he takes quickly 2 straight balls from the former Minnesota Twin.
Well, Kevin Slowey was one of those guys with the Twins who was a consistent double-figure winner, a guy who's had, despite the 2-0 count here, impeccable control.
Mike Redmond is the manager of this team. The Marlins, he caught Kevin Slowey's debut with Minnesota. How about that?
Wow.
I asked him, does that change your conversations with him a little bit? You know, as from the manager to the catcher? And quickly, a leadoff walk, 4 straight pitches to d'Arnaud. And Redmond said, well, I think I have wafted this spring between manager and former catcher of Slowey's just in talking about his outings. Yeah. He comes in, and in his defense, he certainly didn't. I don't think he expected to be in the game at this point.
Well, he was rushed into action, definitely.
And now Brian Bixler, there you see Redmond. Caught for the Twins, caught for the world champion Marlins in 2003. A teammate not only of Slowey, but of Juan Pierre. There's a lot of ties to the past Marlin history. Bixler now with an RBI chance, but Solano fields, tossed to second, inning over. Mets get a run. The ground out from Lucas Duda. Played 4. It's 2-1 Miami. Got a complete recap of today's Mets Marlins Grapefruit League action, plus up to the minute news, opinion, exclusive video straight from camp. It's on Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, part of the SNY.TV blog network. Sean Markham's day is done. 4 very good innings, 2 runs, but both unearned. They came on the Turner error where he got hurt to start the 4th inning. But Markham looked good today. A lot of ground balls. He gives way to Brandon Lyon.
Well, he's one of those veterans in camp that Terry Collins and Dan Worthington have said at the end of camp, we're going to look at guys back of their baseball card, and Brandon Lyon has a pretty impressive one and has been outstanding in spring so far.
Consistent for Lyon, his 5th appearance so far. He's allowed only 1 run, but he hasn't allowed a hit yet so far officially in spring games. You know what you're going to get out of Brandon Lyon. And he is going to be a big part of the back end of this Mets bullpen. Starting with the top of the Marlins order, Juan Pierre will lead it off. And Pierre, that's going to go foul.
Well, I guess Juan Pierre's working on his bunting today, trying to drag that with him to beat the ball, to beat the pitcher to the bag. Pierre's one of those guys that, you know, we've heard many stories. He's hardest worker you'll ever have. He's out here early, stays late, Great teammate. He's had quite a career. 2,141 hits. Look at that stance. One of the few guys not to rub out the back of the line when he's in the batter's box.
It was one of the coolest things I've seen in the last couple of years when he was with the Dodgers. Go out to Dodger Stadium and get there early just because it's unbelievable. He's going to sit and read the paper in the stands.
That's good.
And there was Juan Pierre and Maury Wills working on stolen bases with no one else in the field. And that was cool. Another bunt. Lyon makes the play. And so Pierre retired for the leadoff man in the 5th.
Well, one of the things that talk about Pierre, see that left foot almost right behind the plate, and it's a nice play by Lyon. The key for Brandon Lyon here, as you see the speed, is he doesn't stand up. He throws from down under, which makes it a little easier to play.
Placido Polanco is your hitter. His first game back this month because he's been dealing with an oblique injury. And let's see, he's rifled a double to left and he's hammered a single up the middle. So he looks like he's ready to go. And he takes strike one. He'll be the starting third baseman for the Marlins at age 37 this year. Polanco, as he's going to fly out here. You know, you look at some of the years he had with Detroit. 2007, he batted .341.
Yeah.
This is a major offensive player.
And I tell you, well, you forgot to his defense. He won Gold Glove both at the second base and third base position. So, you know, when he was traded over to Philadelphia, he had to move from second, where he's very comfortable, Gold Glove winner, to third base. Didn't say a word and won a Gold Glove over there. It shows you what kind of ball player he is.
Meanwhile, Brandon Lyons retired the first two to face him. Rob Brantley, the catcher, is 0 for 2. A couple of ground outs, and the breaking ball catches the corner. Strike one. Brantley in 100 at bats for the Marlins. Luciano on deck, hit .290 in his major league debut last year. Duda makes the catch easy. 1-2-3 inning for Brandon Lyon. Halfway home at Tradition Field. 2-1 Marlins over the Mets. Minor league game going on too. Big East Tournament Championship game with post-game reactions, analysis, and exclusive interviews. Big East Nightly tonight at 11:30 only on SNY. It'll be Syracuse and Louisville tonight. The final time the Big East Tournament as we know it's before it's San Diego State and Boise State or wherever else is playing.
Well, I'll tell you, in the day, Kevin, now we're going back 25 years plus, when I was fortunate enough to play for the Mets and living in New York City in the winter, that was a ticket you had to have.
It's always been a great
Chris
event.
Mullin and the gang. Oh, it was just so great.
Derek Coleman and Sherman Douglas
That's
against
right.
Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty top notch.
Patrick in my day.
Oh, yeah. And those, yeah, it's a shame. You know, those rivalries are hard to come by. It's not going to be the same. Last Big East tournament I went to was the Jerry McNamara tournament when he went nuts for Syracuse. Yeah. That was unbelievable.
I go all the way back to Marvin Barnes and Ernie DiMaggio, so you know.
Pedro Feliciano, perpetual Pedro. See him next. He's looked good since he's come back, even if the velocity isn't where everyone thinks it needs to be. Sometimes you just have to look at the scorecard. When it says put out, that's good enough.
Sometimes throwing below the hitting speed works also.
1-2 to Quintanilla, and he's down on strike. So Slowey has a strikeout to start the fifth.
Well, Slowey, this has got to be a good sign for the Marlins. He's a guy who's a control pitcher, but had enough fastball to get it by Quintanilla.
Strikeouts are an interesting topic, and you brought it up to Dave Hudgins. Not only with the Mets, but around baseball. Here's an example. The A's led Major League Baseball last year with strikeouts offensively. 1,387 strikeouts. The Mets, 1,250. That was 12th in Major League Baseball. But here is the caveat to that. Look at the column above, or the row above. I mean, the home runs, the strikeout, and then the payoff. The A's hit almost 200 home runs. The Mets were 139. You can live with the strikeout if you get rewarded with the home run.
Well, both teams walked a lot, over 500. Both teams struck out a lot, and you named it, Kevin. The big difference is that the A's had pop, and they also had some magic last season. Just clutch hits and great playing, some good young pitchers. But really, it's the home run that really was the difference, and 20 win difference between the Mets and the Oakland A's.
This spring, the Mets have, coming into today, struck out 152 times. That was fifth worst in Major League Baseball. And you know, yes, Dave Hudgins, I think it was a great question about that. He talked about two-strike approach, and you had the example like Davis with the great two-strike approach and the base hit. But when you're not getting the home runs, strikeouts are harder to take because you're not getting that reward in the easy runs back. And so it's something that the Mets need to try to do a little bit better with.
Well, think about it. Before the 2012 season, I'm sure that the question I'm always asked when I'm walking around here in Port St. Lucie, driving around, or at Publix trying to get some groceries.
As Ruben Tejada flies out.
For Met fans is always what's wrong with the Mets, or how are the Mets going to be? Well, I'm sure before the year last year in Phoenix, where Oakland trains, I'm sure that a lot of people got the same question, and probably the answer was, I don't know. You know, you just have no idea what kind of team they're going to be. And in fact, it probably doesn't look like they're going to be a championship team, and they were. So you just never know in this game what teams. You know, Arizona a couple seasons ago. You just don't know what teams are going to rise to the top.
Mike Baxter has himself a single. So Baxter in the leadoff spot has walked and now has singled in his 3 trips. Good day.
That being said, I would take a team with a lot of talent. First pitch hitting. We've seen Baxter very patient in his first 2 at-bats. His last at-bat, a 2-0 count. Flew out, decided to be real aggressive, and got himself rewarded with a base hit.
And you know, that's a good call too, because Hudgins touched on it before we let him go. You know, his being selective does not mean that he wants everybody to go 3-2. You know, he wants you to get your pitch and hit it, whether it's the first or the 10th of the at bat.
It takes a certain hitter of certain confidence to be able to say to themselves, you know what? I'm all right with hitting behind the count. I'm all right with hitting with 2 strikes.
There goes Baxter, and he's got a stolen base.
Well, Baxter, one of the few Mets with speed, one of the few Mets who can steal a base, and perfect situation to do it. Good pitch there for Brantley to throw out, but high throw. Big jump by Baxter.
It's the other reason why he makes sense in the leadoff spot. Because if he gets on, he can steal. He's had a good day today. Brandon Hicks took over for Turner, who hurt his right ankle. And Hicks takes a strike. And actually, I'm just looking at some of our friends on Twitter. Adam Rubin and Andy Martino and the guys downstairs saying that Turner is actually not limping too bad in the clubhouse, so maybe that's a good sign.
Good.
Sometimes you do those ankles where, initially the sting, it just, and then when it settles down a little bit, it's hopefully not too terrible.
I think you're right, Kevin, but I don't know how many ankle sprains you've had. Probably the same amount as I've had. It starts to feel better and you have hope, and then the next day you wake up and you go, hey, what happened to me? Did I just get hit by a truck?
I've also had the ones where you untie the basketball shoe and then it's boom, blows up, and that's that.
It's cartoonish.
Strike three as Slowey paints the corner on Hicks, and the Mets strand Baxter at second. Not too much wind today. Temperatures up right around 80. And I hear it's snowing back home. My mom sent me a text that said it's snowing back home. She was a bit peeved that we keep showing the sunshine.
My son just left here today and landed in JFK. So went from sunshine to snow. Pedro Feliciano in the game and has been outstanding so far in his limited amount of work as he tries to battle back from an injury that has not allowed him to pitch the past few seasons.
Well, he's looked good. I mean, he's come in and come back his first appearance back. He pitched in a B game against the Marlins in Jupiter, gave him a home run his first batter. And then after that, he's just shutting people down. Came in 2/3 of an inning against the Marlins, one batter against the Cardinals, and then a full inning against the Tigers.
Well, in his heyday with the Mets, when he routinely went out there 85, 88, I think 92 times his last season with him before he signed that long-term deal with the Yankees. He threw 87, 88 miles an hour, a change up there at 74. But right now he's throwing maybe 83, Kevin, 84 miles an hour. It's going to be interesting to see if that drop in velocity of his fastball is enough to stop him from being as successful as he was before.
2-2 to Ruggiano leading off the 6th. Bird puts him away and 1 down. What does he need to be at? Where is optimal? I mean, normally for him he was high 80s, I guess, when he was maybe touching 90 when he was healthy. So what does he need to do?
Well, I think what happens is that he's going to have to stay off the fastball. Right there, he threw 2 changeups in a row to get Ruggiano. So he's really become a sage, a professor out there of pitching, and that's going to get him through. You just have to, when it's 2-0 or 3-1, he's got to come after someone. Can he do it occasionally?
Well, you still got that. We throw that wicked slider to a lefty, as Coghlan shows you.
It's not about how much it breaks, although he can make it break wicked. But it's late breaking, and that's the key against the lefty-lefty matchup.
That's another one. Beauty.
Kind of lulls you to sleep, not too much into the motion, almost like he's throwing darts. And he drops down just enough to make it tough on the matchup, lefty-lefty. And no real follow-through, no real push-off, just kind of throwing darts in there. So slider out of the strike zone, slider in the strike zone, change up away to the left-hander. That's a pitch you don't see very often.
Some guys you could just say, Solano on deck, know what they're doing. Pedro Feliciano is in that category. 1-2. And meanwhile, Chris Coghlan has an RBI triple today, and we talked about him being the former Rookie of the Year. I was looking at his second half numbers in that Rookie of the Year. I remembered it being good. I didn't remember it being this good.
He was sick.
372 with 21 doubles and 7 home runs in the second half.
Well, that won him the award.
And here, Feliciano sliders him to death. First strikeout for Pedro, and there's 2 away.
Pitchers spend the entire time on the mound trying to expand the strike zone, get ahead, so that way you don't have to throw a strike. And this one, below the knees on the corner, too difficult to hit by Coghlan.
So it'll be Donovan Solano now with 2 down here in the 6th. 2-1 Marlins over the Mets. Solano is 0 for 2. Did have an RBI ground out his last time up, and Feliciano starts him off with strike 1. Fastball inside 84. He's been sitting right around 83 this spring.
I think really the question for Pedro is health. Not only is he going to be able to come back, but also one of the things that made him effective, another changeup when he pitched in his heyday. Watch him turn this ball over. We don't see it here, but watch the action on the ball, down and away, is that you could call for him to pitch every single night. And that's what made him so effective.
Foul tip is caught. Pedro Feliciano motors through Miami with a couple of strikeouts here in the 6th inning. Another good inning for Feliciano in his bid to make the team. Mets trailing 2-1. And the Marlins lead the Mets 2-1. Ike Davis leading off against Kevin Slowey in his third inning, second full inning in relief of Henderson Alvarez. Ike's good spring continues with a single today and 2 trips. Lucas Duda has the Met RBI with a ground out. Marlins scored their runs all because of a strange play where Justin Turner unfortunately rolled his right ankle. Made a great stop on a hard shot at third, and then going to throw it, twisted up and had to leave the game. That led to a 2-run Marlin inning as Ike Davis draws a walk. Well, Pedro Feliciano was terrific. 2 strikeouts, sending the Marlins down 1-2-3. Talking to the rookie catcher between innings.
Sometimes you're talking about pitches, sometimes you're talking about other stuff. And what he's trying to tell d'Arnaud is go a little quicker with those signs, because what he is trying to do, Pedro does this all the time, is that he'll watch the hitter, and if the hitter does not have his bat back, he'll try to quick pitch him. So he's letting d'Arnaud know that give me the signs real quick, and I'm going to look at the hitter, and sometimes I'm going to quick pitch him. And the left-handers in the National League East certainly know that that happens occasionally.
That's a fascinating discussion right there. And we talked at the beginning about why is Travis d'Arnaud still here? Yeah. Because the likelihood of making opening day are slim. Perfect example, right? Yeah, it's not about balls and strikes, but give me that sign early, because what Pedro does is that he'll look at the batter, and if the batter is not paying attention and doesn't have that bat back, he'll quick pitch him once or twice a game. Knowledge dropped on d'Arnaud from the veteran Feliciano. Meanwhile, Marlon Byrd's got 1 for 2 with a double. And takes a fastball for a strike. Slowey, by the way, the former Twin, has every chance to win the starting rotation job for this Marlins team. I mean, we talked about some of the young guys in this rotation, but fifth starter right now, Wade LeBlanc, I guess you'd give him the slight edge. John Maine, the ex-Met, pitched yesterday, didn't have a terrific outing. Gave him 3 runs and threw a lot of balls. Tom Kohler's been roughed up this spring, and then Slowey. He's very much has a chance to be the 5th starter for this Marlins team come opening day.
Well, he's right out of the line of the Minnesota Twins pitchers, working with Rick Anderson, one of the best pitching coaches in baseball, and that is work quickly, throw strikes, change speeds. Always have liked his makeup.
Oh, hard shot by Bird is caught. Bird hit that one right on the screws, but Nick Green came on to make the catch.
Well, Nick Green coming in and tested right away. He's in the Mets in spring training, 1 season, and quick there on that ball by Bird.
Bird retired. Davis stays at first, and here's Duda. Duda 0 for 2, but had an RBI ground out to the right side, which scored Ike Davis his last at bat. Lucas Duda, the 7th round pick, 07, out of USC. Turned 27 in February, so now is the time for Lucas. And, you go back to 2011, Ronnie, maybe for him. He had 301 at-bats. He had 292 with a 330 on-base percentage and 10 home runs. And maybe you look at that number more so than last year's number for a harbinger of what he could be.
I think you look at both numbers and say to yourself, when he's at his best, these are the things that he can do. When he's at his worst, some of the down moments last season.
And the double play here will get the Marlins out of the inning. Kevin Slowey's looked good for the Marlins. Duda's double play ends it. 2-1 Fish through 6. Thursday, Mets look for a win in Port St. Lucie. They host the Cardinals in an exhibition match here at Tradition Field. Mets Cards presented by Citi Thursday at 1 only on SNY. Take a look at our pocket schedule brought to you by Volkswagen. Or more like Volkswagen. It's really not 2 words. The Braves are in town tomorrow. That's a picks game on Channel 11. It'll be Julio Teheran, their up-and-coming young star, against Jonathan Neese. A good pitching matchup in that one. Last time the Braves were here, they brought the Upton brothers and Hayward in the outfield. Not sure who'll make the trip for them. Maybe call Freddie Gonzalez and ask if he'd oblige and do that again. That would be great.
I think it's Freddie Freeman's turn this time. Yes, I made the trip.
Matt Dendecker's in the game for the Mets, replacing Marlon Byrd in center. That's the only change. And Pedro Feliciano staying on for this second inning of work for the first time. Well,
this is a real test. You know, we've talked about his limited work so far, some pitching in the minor league camp. But when you're an older veteran, to see if to tax him a little bit, sit down and be able to come back out and get the left-hander here.
Kochman goes the other way. Fair ball. A chance for a double. And Kochman has a leadoff double. Let me ask you a question. There's no situation in a game that I could think of that Pedro Feliciano is pitching 2 innings if he makes the team.
Yeah, no. What they wanted him to do, because Kochman was up, the first hitter, is that Terry Collins wanted to see him try to retire the left-handed hitter. Gotcha. But Kochman's been hot all spring training, and that should be all.
And so it was just the one batter. 1+ innings for Feliciano with 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, and now the Mets will make a change. Lefty side armor, righty side armor next. Righty side armor in for the Mets. Seems like he's pitched every day this spring.
Yeah, well, it seems like he has. And I also have seen almost all of his outings, and he's been outstanding except for a couple.
Danny Echeverria is the batter he faces first, and he got in the wheelhouse there, or jammed him, I should say. 1-1 Echeverria.
Everyone knows his story. You know, conventional overhand pitcher. Rick Peterson got him in Baltimore, got him to be a sidearm submarine pitcher. And his career has taken a better turn.
Kochman, the runner on second. He doubled off Pedro Feliciano. So Feliciano goes 1+, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. And now it's Burke's turn. Burke trying to make this Mets bullpen. Real good outing the other day that we saw on Thursday, coming in to get Miguel Cabrera and then staying on the next inning to get the Tigers. Back to Bixler, advances the runner for the first out. minor league games going on the backfields behind Tradition Field. Wally Backman.
Wally was so happy. I said, what happened to you? You lost the 86 number. He goes, said I wasn't coming back unless they give me a real number. So he's back to his playing number.
Back to the original.
Number 6.
That just looks right.
Waldo.
So Vegas, that's Valdespin. Is that Valdespin? I saw 1. No, it's not. But he was hitting earlier in that game. I saw the 1 real quick. I thought it was him. They were giving Valdespin some at bats as the Mets bring the infield in against Kevin Slowey, staying on a hit for himself.
Well, in spring training, you see a lot of times experiments with the suicide squeeze, so you have to be alert for it. A good swing there by Slowey. He's always been one of the better athletes. Sinker down and in.
One and 2 to Kevin Slowey.
Well, this one ball chest high and by Slowey. Not a lot of at bats in his American League, now National League career.
He's pitched well in relief today, though. And Burke blows it by him with the fastball. So Slowey down on strikes. And now 2 down. And Sean Figgins will be the batter. That's
too much for the pitcher, Slowey.
So here's Figgins, veteran, former Angel, former Mariner, trying to kind of jumpstart his career after a bad turn in Seattle for him, and he's got a chance to make this team because of his versatility. And brings another veteran to this young squad, but he can play every position in the infield and play the corners in the outfield. So that'll give you what you need. There's Valdespin, so he's back from the minor league side.
Well, Figgins is a little bit like Jason Bay, who's gone to Seattle. Big contract, didn't live up to it, trying to rejuvenate his career.
Bay's had a good spring. I have a feeling he's going to do well there.
Good for him. Good man. Just New York was not the right place for whatever reason or reasons.
Well, there's a big issue going on in our television truck. Apparently a giant wasp got in earlier.
Oh,
so it's around and folks are trying to dodge it while they put up the graphics, and Danny's trying to direct, and it's causing havoc in there. I'm surprised we haven't gone off the air yet. But sources tell me we're close to that, so we'll see.
Well, it's nice to know that we've got some real, if we get in a bind this season, we get stuck in harm's way, that we have such, He-Men in the truck there with the one wasp and the 17 people we got in there.
Causing havoc.
Gee, I'm going to stay in my room for 6 months.
1 and 2 to Figgins with 2 down here in the 7th. And Figgins delivers a 2-out RBI. 3-1 Miami.
Well, they'll always tell you if you're facing the side armor and you're a left-handed hitter, just try to hit it back through the box. The ball, Burke thought he had a chance to make the play, but good 2-out hitting by Figgins.
First at bat now of the game for Nick Green. Came in on defense, made that real good play at third base for Placido Polanco, who looked like he was ready for opening day, coming back from the oblique injury. A couple of hits for Polanco. Green trying to make this Marlins team as a bench player, and waves at the breaking ball for strike 1. Travis d'Arnaud getting the start, still in there in the 7th inning. Haven't seen d'Arnaud's arm put to the test today. Figgins off first base now.
Well, against the side armor, you're always going to get a pretty good jump, and that's a given. So you expect Figgins to maybe try to take a base here, get himself in scoring position. Burke counters with 2 throws over.
There goes Figgins, and nice play at third. Hicks with the stop and the throw. Brandon Hicks flashing the leather, and his defense gets the Mets out of the inning. Marlins add a run. Seventh inning at Tradition Field, 3-1 Marlins lead the Mets. Travis d'Arnaud leads it off and hammers one to left. That's going to short hop off the wall. d'Arnaud's going to try to turn it to 2, and he's in there. Leadoff double for Travis d'Arnaud.
Well, Travis d'Arnaud continues to impress. First pitch hitting here of Kevin Slowey. Drills that ball down the left field line.
Ryan Bixler, the batter, had a good spring today, 0 for 2. Flew out to left and then grounded into a fielder's choice 4-6 in the 4th inning. Kevin Slowey still in there. He came in the 4th inning relief of Henderson Alvarez and got out of that jam, and then has pitched 2 very good innings so far in his bid to win this 5th starter job for the Marlins.
Alvarez gave up a base hit to Ike Davis. Looked like he might have tweaked something in his legs. Struggled for the next couple of hitters, and Slowey came on.
That'll move the runner as Ed Lucas throws out Bixler, but d'Arnaud goes to 3rd. New York Mets baseball on SNY brought to you by Jeep. The Jeep Showcase event going on now. Come see what's new. Get a great deal on new Jeep brand vehicles today. By WB Mason, by Delta, and by Budweiser. It's a view from the outside looking in. Field 7 right behind Tradition Field. Field 7 is the one that has the Citi Field dimensions. So you see that's where the AAA game is going on right now. Marlins and the Las Vegas Mets. Omar Quintanilla bats with d'Arnaud off 3rd and 1 down here. Mets trailing 3-1. So that'll be a souvenir. Quintanilla 0 for 2 today. Just tuned in, news of the day. Well, we found out yesterday about David Wright with a moderate intercostal strain, out 3 to 5 days inactivity, and then we'll see from there. Hopefully that's all it is. Could be worse, as we know from those injuries before.
He got a shot, didn't he?
He got a cortisone shot, which will obviously help. And then during the game, an unfortunate incident in the 4th inning. Justin Turner with a great play at third base, and Turner, Wright is out as Quintanilla will get the run in here. Kuzminoff will take it to first base himself, but d'Arnaud scores, and the Mets make it a 1-run game. Here's the Turner.
Incredible hard shot by Luciano. Gets him on, puts the weight on his back right ankle, and then when he gets up to throw, watch that right ankle. Kind of just rolls over, almost like a basketball injury. And walked off as such.
Turner, right ankle sprain, taking, I don't know if he left yet, but he's going to go to the hospital for precautionary x-ray. So we hope that he's okay. So does Terry Collins.
And like the big league diamonds, right, Kevin, that have the x-ray machines in the stadium.
Yeah.
They certainly don't have it here in the minor league stadiums.
Turner's got to take that tire drive all the way down Route 1. Get the x-rays.
That is tired. Oh, man.
There are more lights in a quarter-mile proximity in St. Lucie West Boulevard than even New York. Maybe it's just the timing of the lights. I mean, obviously, I guess there can't be more lights than New York City when you talk about that. But the timing in New York's perfect. You get green for like 15 blocks.
Especially like 2nd Avenue.
Here, you got no shot. Andrew Brown pinch hitting and promptly pops up to second, and the inning is over. Mets get a run, though. Double by d'Arnaud. Quintanilla gets him home. They're down by 1. Tuesdays are back. Just $19 gets you a game ticket and a limited edition Mets t-shirt. Call 718-507-TIXX. TIX. I've had trouble with the X's today.
That's all right.
TIXX. Log on to Mets.com to get your T-shirt Tuesday tickets while they last. Anthony Recker replacing Travis d'Arnaud behind the dish. Zach Lutz over at first base for Ike Davis. Andrew Brown takes out Lucas Duda in left. And Jairus Familia will try his hand on the mound.
Well, you see his numbers so far. Probably not the strikeouts you expect, but he has thrown the ball over the plate, and when he does, he has always been effective. Great sinking action on his 95-plus fastball and a wipeout slider when he's at his best.
Got good news. John DeMarco killed the wasp in the truck. Everyone is safe.
He moves quick with that haircut. You know, shaving on the sides, a little bit on top, flying around there.
Flying around
JD
there.
Got the wasp.
Very aerodynamic. So here's Familia facing Kyle Skipworth, second catcher of the day for the Marlins as we start the 8th inning. What needs to go right for Familia to make this team, Ronnie?
Well, I don't think too much. I mean, they are just, I wouldn't say they're salivating, but they're just short of that, hoping that this young man just finds himself. You know, sometimes you watch a young pitcher throw, Kevin, you say to yourself, does he know how good he could be? Because he's got the 2 pitches that you need to come out of the bullpen and get people out. They don't pick it up. He's got, like I said, a wipeout slider when he's ahead in the count. Look at where this fastball is. Not even close, but you have to try to time that 95-mile-an-hour gas. That being said, the base on balls, the getting behind in the count, have been his Achilles heel. They're hoping that that's a thing of the past. He doesn't really push off too much. Throws really with his upper body, but he's so strong that he's able to get so much arm speed by just landing on that kind of stiff front foot and kind of propels himself towards the plate.
2-2 to Skipworth, leading off the 8th. Man, he goes fishing, can't come up with that one. Rector will complete the strikeout. And 1 down for Familia.
I mean, that's that good slider that bounces before the plate. Nice play by Rector, by the way. A difficult pitch to block.
Here is now a real up-and-comer for the Marlins. Christian Yelich, their former #1 draft pick back in 2010, has had a ridiculous spring, and the Marlins people are absolutely raving about him. There is no way that he will not be up with his team in the summer. He was in Jupiter and A-ball last year, and quite frankly, if he was a level higher, he would probably start off the year on the roster. I mean, he's that good. He's been that impressive. Tino Martinez raving about his maturity to the Marlins beat writers. He will start the year at Double-A and probably be in Miami real soon. It's a good matchup here with a couple of young, talented guys.
In Thousand Oaks, California, suburb of Los Angeles, northwest of the city. Great travel baseball teams there.
Yelich pounds this one deep left field, and there it goes. On cue with the accolades, Yelich drills an opposite field home run off Familia, and it's 4-2 Marlins.
Boy, they get the run right back. When you watch Yelich swing, it reminds me a little bit of a young Sean Green who played with the Mets, Dodgers, of course. Tall, lanky, lean, and power the other way. Gets ahead 2-0, gets a pitch to hit, hand comes off the bat, but no matter. Has great power the opposite way. Pretty impressive. We were talking about some of the young guys that we've seen here in spring training, Kevin. You mentioned some pitchers and hitters, and I mentioned Yelich. I was thinking Matt Adams for the St. Louis Cardinals. There's a lot of power there.
I wonder, Mike Redmond, you know, what he's thinking too, because you know about the veterans of Pierre and Polanco, and Coughlin has himself another base hit. Chris Coughlin's had a good day, a triple, and now that single, 2 straight hits off Familia in the 8th. But think about Redmond. He's looking at this team. He knows they're young. Yeah, he knows that Yelich was only in Jupiter, and he started out in rookie ball. But this is also a guy that was on the 03 Marlins that saw them bring up 20-year-old Miguel Cabrera, that saw them bring up Dontrell Willis, who was, what, 19 at the time? And they were huge parts of their 2003 World Series run. So just curious what's going through his mind right now about a guy like that.
Well, you know, Redmond's going to have less to say about it than he probably would like to. you know, that'll be a GM kind of decision with Redmond sending text messages at all times about how he'd like to see him. I think, though, that when you're a team, and I'm not going to say starting over, but has really changed your team from the year prior, you want to make sure that if you're going to push a guy along, that he's ready. You don't want to ever have a little kind of speed bump where he's got to go back down. You want to make sure when Yelich is called, that'll be the last time he sees the minor leagues.
Ed Lucas, the batter, and Familia hits the corner strike. It's 0-2 to Lucas.
And you're starting to envision maybe, Yelich at one corner. He's playing center today. Stanton, of course, will be one of their best players by far, one of the best players in the National League already.
We talked about that outfield. You're going to have Pierre in left. You're going to have Stanton in right. Justin Ruggiano had that great year last year, and he was injured for a lot of this camp, back in and playing today. But Chris Coughlin's trying to win that center field job, and got a good day today. I'll tell you that, a triple and a run, an RBI as well, 2 hits. Ruggiano has a leg up, I do believe, but even if Coughlin doesn't win that starting job, trying to make this team as a backup outfielder.
Kevin, when you look at the National League East, right, I think it's split in these categories. You think that Washington has the most talent, but Atlanta really, that great outfield we talked about, the 2 Upton brothers and Hayward, close second, maybe a 1A. Philadelphia with a lot of question marks, but still throwing out some quality arms every single time to start. And with the Mets and Marlins probably in the group below.
1-2. And Familia gets him. That bounces from Recker.
Nice hustle by the Marlin hitter, but he's out with a runner on first base. Good block by Recker.
But it does allow Coughlin to go on down to second base. So the second strikeout by Familia in the inning.
I shouldn't say good block by Recker. He does just about everything. The only problem there is if you don't get that ball and get it off your chest protector, it will run up the glove as it did there and kind of repels it away.
Kevin Kuzminoff will have his first at bat now. Came in, play first base to replace Casey Kochman, former San Diego Padre. Trying to win a spot on this Marlins bench. He play either third or first. You're talking about the Phillies. They named Cole Hamels the starter, which is, you say certainly part reward because he was great last year. But there's also pretty big concern for Roy Halladay. Last start he got tattooed against Detroit.
Yeah.
His velocity has been topping out at 88. He's usually around 91, 92. And coming off a year where he had those same issues, shoulder, velocity, things like that. There's concern there for Roy.
Yeah, he certainly is not going to have that 94, 95 that he had before. Is he not going to be successful? I'm not going to bet against him. Right. I mean, he's just one of those guys that's a winning pitcher. That being said, coming off a little injury, trying to work through it. I know this last start, I think he threw on the side a couple of times and maybe didn't have a lot left to face that Detroit team. That's a bad idea because they're pretty good. But when April comes, it's hard for me to believe that Halladay is not going to be ready to go. And at a high level.
I'll tell you one thing. Most are down on the Phillies because of their age and because of questions about Howard and Utley, and can they be healthy and kind of get back to looking normal and not limping around and things like that. I'll tell you what. Halladay, Lee, and Hamels at the top. You've got Papelbon, Mike Adams, Antonio Bastardo on the back end of the bullpen. Yep. They're going to be in an awful lot of games, I would think. And if those guys do hit and they do get something from, Rollins or Michael Young or, Dominic Brown matures, I mean, would you be shocked if they put a little run together? I wouldn't.
No, not at all.
Too much talent there to write them off.
Well, you and I watched the NYN Howard at the end of the season last year. They looked pretty close to
they did.
Old form.
It's a great point. And, despite all that happened last year to the Phillies, they were still a 500 team. Sorry, forget that. They weren't that far away. I know the Phillies, maybe their window might be closing, but it might be a little too early to write off Charlie Manuel's group.
Well, I think the big number when you look at the Philadelphia Phillies, and I don't have it in front of me, was, they had a lot of leads that they relinquished late in games. And, things change in that way. That 81 mark shoots to 90 with no problem. But, the Nationals are loaded. The Braves are loaded. And in those ways, it's going to be a scramble for those three teams at the top, where the other two teams hoping to catch incredible magic to change that.
Chris Coghlan off of second base. Single and moved on down on the wild pitch. And it's 3-2 to Kevin Kuzminoff. Marlins added a run this inning on the Yelich home run, and Familia misses ball 4.
This is the other number we didn't talk about with Familia, Kevin, is that when he's not 100% on top of his game, he will tend to get in a place where he's throwing 20 to 30 pitches in an inning. That makes it tough also.
Chris Valleca's first at bat of the game, and a hefty cut and a miss on 93 miles an hour.
Watch the sinking action on this fastball. Starts right down the middle and bores down and in on the right-hander.
Familia trying to limit the damage. He's already allowed a run in this inning. Problem right now with Familia, as he works to get better and better, you see all this tremendous potential he has, but you got guys like Brandon Lyon and Scott Atchison and LaTroy Hawkins who will probably work later in the game. Do you bring him on who may have games where he's sitting there for a few games, then comes in and maybe a little rusty with a young pitcher? It's just shortstop, and the Mets get out of the frame. So Familia does a nice job recovering, but the Marlins get on the board on one of their star prospects, Christian Yelich, going deep. Makes it 4-2 Marlins over the Mets. We go to the home 8th here at Tradition. and that one's going to find the seats as Baxter's had himself a nice day today. He's got a single and a walk and a stolen base, getting a chance in the leadoff spot as Terry Collins tries to find himself a leadoff hitter, and Baxter making a play, making a case for that spot. Meanwhile, the guy who started this game is Sean Markham, pitched very well today. 4 innings, allowed 2 runs, both unearned. And Sean joins us from the Mets dugout. Sean, it's Kevin and Ron upstairs, and a good effort today. Was this just rolling along and maybe the best you felt so far this spring?
Yeah, started mixing my cutter in today, so it's definitely work in progress. Next bullpen, come up here in a couple days. I'll add the slider, and then I'll have all my pitches to go in my last 2 starts, so I can get ready for April. But body's feeling good, legs are underneath me, and one thing today and that I'm taking from all these starts in my bullpen is just making sure I can repeat my delivery, and if I'm able to do that, then location seems to come pretty easy for me.
You said something interesting there, that the slider comes last, probably because of the arm strength, right? But there are certain games you go into and you want to work on a particular pitch.
Yeah, today I threw more cutters. I just started throwing in the bullpen a few days ago, and probably threw about 10 cutters today. And it's definitely a pitch that a couple of them backed up on me today when I was trying to throw it back door to the lefty, but when I was able to go glove side with it, it's had late movement on it, and it was effective today. But I got to make sure I can locate it to the backside, my back, the back door to the lefty and front door to the righty.
As Brandon Hicks pops one up, we talked to Sean Markham, had a good start today. Sean, you told me something interesting at the very beginning of camp, how this offseason you did something you've never done before, and that's throw the entire offseason. And then you came to camp, and knowing your body, as you've been around this is not your first rodeo. You waited till you got a little deeper into camp, then threw in a B game, and just kind of knew what you needed to do to get ready. How did doing what you did in the offseason, throwing as much as you did, change your plan and how you felt coming into spring training and up to this point?
The previous 2 spring trainings, you go into those live BP sessions, and you can't prepare for that in the offseason, where you throw 30, 35 pitches warming up and then go straight out to the mound and throw another 30. So you're throwing 60, 65 pitches without rest. If you have one of those innings, you're not having too much success, and your team's probably down 20-0. So it was one of those things where I just wanted to build up all the endurance that I can. And the way it was explained to me with the guy that I worked with this offseason is treat it like a marathon. You're not going to go out and run 26 miles on the first day. You got to build up your legs and your endurance, and that was my focus this offseason with the arm. And I'm a guy that I don't need a lot of starts in spring. I'd rather pitch off the bullpen mounds and work on my mechanics, repeat my delivery, and get my arm slots. And if I'm able to do that, then my pitches seem to come pretty easily for me.
Well, they look good today, that's for sure. And Sean, congrats on that effort. Good luck going forward. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Shine debating the results of this year's Big East tournament, plus bringing live reports on the Mets and Yanks straight from Camp Loudmouth, weeknights at 6 only on SNY. Gotta love the Ronnie Brown jersey in the center of your screen there. Gotta get a new one, my man. Minor league camp going on. Backfields here at Tradition Field. No idea what the score is or who's batting right now.
Very, very lucky. Never had to spend one single day in minor league camp. Not one. So.
Eric Campbell, I'm not sure. Brian Peterson will lead it off for the Marlins in the 9th as the Mets go. They went, let's see, they tried to get another batter for Pedro Feliciano. Now they're going to go 2 innings for Familia here, who gave up the home run to Yelich in his last inning of work. This is his 27th pitch, and he's upstairs with the fastball.
Well, the bullpen is humming, so you don't know how Familia is going to go, but I think it's more important, like we talked about with Pedro Feliciano, Kevin, just the ability to have an inning, sit down, and come out and see how effective his pitches are.
And it's 3-0 to Peterson, a 9-hitter hitting for the pitcher here. Good outing by Kevin Slowey, by the way. Yeah. Came in relief and did a real nice job. Tell you what, if you're the Marlins and 4 straight balls and a leadoff walk, not what Familia wanted to do. If you're the Marlins and you got all this uncertainty after Nolasco with the young arms, but you know, figure you're going to struggle at times throwing strikes. Jacob Turner and Nady Eovaldi and Henderson Alvarez today. It'd be nice to have a guy who throws a lot of strikes in the 5-hole, right?
No, that was a great pickup. Kevin Slowey, I'm a big fan of his. He just he knows what he's doing out there, and you know, when you have a lot of young pitchers, it's good to complement them with guys who know how to throw strikes, like you said, Kev.
Sean Figgins had an RBI single his first time up, replacing Juan Pierre in the leadoff spot. Good block by Recker as he keeps Peterson, who's got good speed at first base.
Well, nice job. Watch Anthony get his whole body kind of slide over there and just make like a big wall to keep it in front of him as Danny Warthen will come out and try to settle down his young right-hander after 5 consecutive balls. You know, I think what he's telling him there, and you can't be certain, but the one thing I do see from Familia is that he cuts his pitches off. What does that mean? Well, when you throw the ball to the plate, you really want to get your whole body moving towards the catcher. And I think what happens for Jerry Reese, especially when he gets behind hitters and he starts to throw some balls, he kind of aims it and he doesn't follow through. And that's what I mean by cutting it off. And that's what I think Dan Warthen was trying to remind him.
The Mets have double barrel action going in their bullpen. Familia 1-0 to Figgins, and there's a strike. Minor league game is over. The guys filing on out.
Soup and crackers to wait, Kev.
That took a lot longer than my introduction would have seemed. They weren't playing to the cameras, were they?
They kind of walk and they run when it's done.
I want to go back to the Sean Markham interview because I just think it's interesting how veterans, you know, you do what you know is good for your body, right? And I asked Sean what he told me at the very beginning of spring, that he did something different this offseason, and he was on this strict throwing program all offseason. And you know, this is a guy that's gotten hurt in the past, was dealing with elbow issues last year. You have a guy, you know, a veteran like Johan Santana, who's been working and rehabbing and throwing all off season for the last 4 off seasons. Yeah. And he goes and rests this year. Not saying any way is right or wrong, but just knowing what's right. Peterson takes off. Familia waits long enough, but the throw is, it is in time. I thought Familia throwing to the wrong side of the base would have killed the play, but Quintanilla bailed him out, and Peterson's out of there.
Well, Peterson tried to surprise the young right-hander, and there was definitely an element of surprise as Familia used to say, turns the wrong way, makes an accurate throw, but Quintanilla gets there just in time. A good call by the second base umpire. Watch the slide by Peterson. His foot kind of stays in the air, allows Quintanilla to throw it on top of the bag.
Quintanilla did like an ice skating move, a little 360.
Yeah, that was the key move, was Quintanilla.
But I guess, Ronnie, my question for you is you know, as you got a little older in your career, was it just what felt right in the offseason? I mean, how do you approach that? You know, I mean, you could make an argument for both cases. Is it good to keep going and keep that motion going? Is it good to rest?
Yeah, well, it's a hard call, Kevin. It really is a hard call, because I don't think it's because Santana was coming off the shoulder surgery. But let's remember, I think 3 seasons in a row he had surgery. So he was always with a physical therapist year after year after year. And I think, you know, that sometimes can get you to a place where you just want to take a break. People at home will be, what do you mean take a break? You know, you make an X amount. Why would you want to take a break? Well, sometimes, as we saw last year, especially in the no-hitter, you can get to a point where you just need a break from that. And you think that resting is going to build up the arm strength.
Sure. Need to recover.
And for Markham, I think he just wanted to, he thought which would work for him, is that he is 30 start guy every year. Well, he only had 21 last year. So he feels as though he didn't have all the work that he needed to do. So there's different strokes for different folks. I know personally, I did not throw as much as these people will throw, these young athletes will throw all the time. But that being said, you know, every year I threw enough innings that I didn't really worry about it. And as I got later in my career, I would never throw off a mound until I came to spring training. Would I play catch all through January? Absolutely. But just, you know, catch from 100 feet, 45 throws, nice and easy, you know, not too much stress, so that when I came to spring training, I wasn't completely in a fog and ready to kind of stand on that mound. Because the hardest thing is that every pitcher is going to do the same thing. They'll throw nice and easy, and then they come to spring training the first time off the mound, they're trying to throw at 95 miles an hour. And that's a thing that once you become a veteran, that becomes a less of a concern.
Yeah. Well, that's Markham touched on that too, about getting that first live batting practice. And you know, it's funny, some players, and we're just using Markham and Santana as examples, but some guys figure, well, hey, getting older, I'm going to save these bullets. I know I have X amount of pitches here. I'm going to save them for the year, and you rest. And then you got some guys that say, no, I got to work, build up the strength so I have enough energy and endurance to get through that marathon at the end of the year. Just everybody knows a little different what's right for their body.
And I will say that sometimes the choice you make is not the right choice. I came off elbow surgery one season, and I did not throw a lot, did a lot of physical therapy. So by the time I got down to spring training, I was very limber. My arm was completely strong from using bands and all the different kind of things you do to strengthen your arm, but I had not thrown a lot. Got on the mound the first time I threw, felt pain. So now, oh no, what's going on? We were lucky enough to have a old trainer, Tommy McKenna, and he had such weight in the organization that he was able to tell Davey Johnson and the staff that, hey, listen, let me have him for 3 weeks. He's not going to pitch in 3 weeks, but he'll be ready in 3 weeks. And luckily enough, he was like the guru for pitchers in the day. Worked with, of course, Seaver and Kuzman and Matlack and all the great early Mets pitchers. And I would say that he healed me that spring training. By the time I came back, I was ready to go and ready for April 1st. And when it was March 1st, I thought my career was over. By April 1st, I was all right again. So thanks to he's gone from us now, and one of the great trainers of all time, but Tommy McKenna, saved my career that one spring training.
Great day at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie. Along with Ron Darling, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Glad to have you along this afternoon. 4-2 Marlins in the ninth. Here is Familia about to throw the 13th pitch to Sean Figgins. He's up to 41 in an inning and a third of work in relief. And he's going to throw number 14. I've got to tell you, when we're showing the minor league fields and the game's going on, this is great. Colin McHugh, who the Mets sent to minor league camp, and of course saw him last year in the bigs. I'm sure we'll see him again this year. On Twitter, he is a great follow.
Really?
So he writes today, Gotta love minor league spring training games. 4 people in the crowd. 3 of them shirtless, are only there for the unimpeded sunlight. 4th is a mom.
He got the call. That's absolutely right.
That's just great.
Usually, if you're lucky, you'll get 1 or 2 of the parents who come down for spring training to watch their son play. Keep going, Sean. You get to this point now where he's going to face his 15th pitch. Even his own teammates are like, come on, put the ball in play already.
'78th pitch of the at-bat to Figgins coming up. He'll make it 16.
I had a game in I used to call it in struggle league. After the end of the year, all the prospects are going. It's called instructional league to further advance how you're going to be as a player. And my parents had driven down from Massachusetts to watch me pitch against the Philadelphia Phillies minor league people. They scratched me at the end. Another guy pitched. My parents were in the stands, and I was bat boy for the day. Talk about
that's great.
A little embarrassing.
And on the 17th pitch, he shall walk. And that'll do it for Familia. Threw a lot of pitches up to 45. 17 of that at bat to Figgins, and 2 walks to start the 9th. Familia's day is done. Terry Collins going to the bullpen. In right field, Geico Sports Night, the only show that's only New York sports. Tonight, we've got plenty to do. Coverage of this game and highlights, including the Big East final at the Garden. Louisville and Syracuse. That's tonight. Geico Sports Night, 10:30 on SNY. Dylan Owen will get his chance on the big field today, coming over from the minor league side. See his numbers with AAA Buffalo. And Owen facing Nick Green gets a strike. Ronnie, I can't find it right now, but I'm pretty sure that in his rookie year, in 2007 in Brooklyn in A-ball, he won the ERA title in the Penn League. He was 9-1 with a 1.49 ERA. I remember we did a couple of his games that year.
Well, he started out like gangbusters. He won 13 games the second year. So.
And tap to third. Hicks. They'll turn it. That's a way to make an entrance onto the major league field. Come in one batter, get a double play, inning over. We head to the bottom of the 9th inning. Marlins 4, Mets 2. Baseball on SNY brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By Time Warner Cable, enjoy all the things you love better. TV, internet, and home phone from Time Warner Cable. By your tri-state area Volkswagen dealers, visit VWDealer.com. And by State Farm, today's State Farm. Look at that picture. That is something else. Pat Cauley of Glendale, New York, the agent of the day. Contact Pat's office at patcauley.org. That is fantastic.
Don't contact him right now, though. He's in Brazil, so he'll be back in a couple days.
Still the old games going on the berm. Keep going. Great day today. Temperatures in the high 70s, hit up to 80, and now gone down a couple degrees to 77. Just perfect. Maybe the best day of the spring since we've been down here.
I mean, the last game we did, it was in the 60s, right? So it's much better.
This is the first time I haven't had a jacket on doing a game since I think the first week.
Well, the talented Mike Dunn coming in. He had a up and down kind of season last year, but the young left-hander, 95 miles an hour with that fastball.
What do you think happened to him last year? Because he showed nothing but potential brilliance in the years before that.
There was a lot of turmoil on that team last year. You had a closer that kind of couldn't find his way early, or couldn't find his way at all in Miami last year. So a lot of turmoil in that bullpen. I think he'll be much better this year. Down to 77.
Matt Den Decker leads it off for the Mets, trailing 4-2 in the bottom of the ninth. And Dunn, who can bring it on the radar gun. Billy Wagner worked with Dunn when he was a young Brave, and Wagner raved about him and worked with him constantly.
I think Mike started his career as a Yankee and then moved over to the Atlanta Braves, but
yes,
he's got all the talent in the world.
Radar gun says 93, but that ball is moving.
Well, up and in. Next pitch usually is a slider away. Let's see if he counters.
We've talked all day about two-strike approach. Here's Den Decker with a 2-2.
There it is.
Tough pitch. Den Decker goes down on strikes for the first out in the ninth.
A sequence of pitches that can't get much better. Up and under his armpits with a fastball and a slider on the knees on the corner.
It's pretty close to unhittable at that point.
And that was can I get a right-hander late in the game occasionally? The face?
He really hasn't had it easy late in these games. Colin Cowgill will come on and pinch hit. He's had a terrific spring. And takes in the dirt for ball one. Just tuned in, storylines today. Sean Markham started for the Mets. 4 innings, very good. 2 runs, both unearned. Unfortunately, they were unearned because Justin Turner made a terrific play at third and then twisted his ankle. Right ankle sprain. Going to get x-rays for precaution. And that's certainly noteworthy in its own right, let alone on the same day that news comes of David Wright being out or inactive 3 to 5 days and then out whoever knows long after that, hopefully not too long. The Mets are down 2 third basemen today is the bottom line. We hope Turner's okay.
Not much on the offense side. Darno with another ringing double. Marlon Byrd kept his spring training hot with a double himself. Baxter got on base a couple of times. So did Ike.
Recker on deck waiting for his first at bat. 1-1 to Cowgill.
Here's your chance, Kevin.
Somebody left the gate open.
I thought you were going to drop on me just a bit outside.
Well, I was going to, but referencing a very popular commercial.
Here you go. You got another one.
Just a bit outside.
There you go. Very nice.
I can't do it like you. Come on. Can't steal that line. It's too good. Every time Major League's on, by the way, it's always watched. As soon as I flip onto it, it's locked in. 2-1. And it's 3-1 to Colin Cowgill.
Who knew that Pedro Serrano would be selling you insurance at some point? I mean, that was.
Oh, the great Pedro Serrano. Throw him a curveball. Such a great movie. What's your favorite baseball movie?
My favorite baseball movie is The Field of Dreams, only because I grew up with a father who just loved baseball. So the Dad, you want to have a catch line, it always gets me. And also, to have a catch is a phrase you don't hear very often other than from people who play catch. You know?
3-1. Good rip by Calgill, but he fouls it back.
You?
I'd have to go to. I mean, I love Major League.
Yeah.
That's definitely tied at the top, and I've always loved Bull Durham.
So you're more of the comedic side of the baseball movies.
We used to watch Bull Durham when I did minor league ball. Bull Durham, at least once a bus trip. At least once. You get on that 7-hour bus trip, and that would definitely be on there.
I always liked The Natural because I had two friends that were in it. Phil Minkowski, who played third base, and I played with him in AAA at third base, and just one of the great guys of all time, was in that game. And then Tony Ferrara, one of my good friends in New York who's passed away, was the guy that was in charge of making sure that baseball scenes were done right.
By the way, Bill Webb's helicopter just pulling into Tradition Field.
What has?
That's great. Well, Webby, our director, was directing the World Baseball Classic, so he's being airlifted in from Miami for tomorrow's contest. Dan Barr, our director today, is going to be out tomorrow, but then back with us on Thursday.
That's going right over the park and straight to Leilani's on the beach. Forget about it.
3-2 again. Calgill, tough at bat against Mike Dunn. What's he doing just hovering there? He's just hanging out. Just watching the game? Got to buy a ticket, son. Now landing.
Oh, it might be a dignitary.
Maybe LeBron decided to card up and watch the end of some spring training baseball. Calgill, a shot. Good play at short by Valleca, and he makes it. That's a great play. That was hammered by Calgill, and there's the second out.
Well, you're right, Kevin. The ability to get that in the backhand, and then on both ends, Kuzmanov making the pick at first base. Spins him around. Marlins haven't done too much wrong today, have they, in this ball game?
You know, the one thing about them, for a young team, they haven't this spring. They haven't made errors, and they haven't struck out.
Yeah,
they're doing a lot of little things right, which you really have to do when you've got a lot of inexperience. Anthony Recker, the last hope for the Mets. In a 4-2 game in the ninth, Recker's first at bat came in to relieve Travis d'Arnaud of catching duties. d'Arnaud had a double and a run scored today for the Mets. As a slider for strike two. Stays alive. And the Marlins take down the Mets 4-2 this afternoon as Dunn comes in and strikes out two. And the Marlins get the victory. Good inning for Mike Dunn in relief. Kevin Slowey was terrific in relief, 4 1/3 innings. As the Marlins win it, Sean Markham, real good start for the Mets today. Offense, 5 hits, 2 runs. Travis d'Arnaud had a big double. Duda with an RBI. Sean Markham pitched well. Negative news, Justin Turner hurt. Right ankle injury. We'll keep tabs on him, but Mets can ill afford any more injuries. There you see the final score as the Marlins take down the Mets 4-2. Tomorrow we're on the air, Braves and Mets. That game on the Pix 11. Look forward to seeing you then. For our entire SNY crew, as you see our next SNY game on Thursday. Thanks for watching. For Ron Darling, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Have a great rest of your weekend, at least till tomorrow at 1. So long.